Welcome to the Oh So Spurs match reaction live show. Yes, it's a new of a kind thing where we're going to be going over performances right after they're finished, rating the players, and taking your questions. And to go through it all with me today is Stu. How are you, Stu?
All good, all good. It's almost midnight here in Dubai, but at least for the first time in a long time, I've stayed up late for an actual win, which is a
Yeah,
surprise.
come on. At least we're discussing a victory this time, and
Exactly.
that's a thing in its own. We've had not many of those when you've been up late debriefing with us, and Johnny will be with us very shortly too. But Stu, it's kind of 4 toes into, or should I say 9 toes into the next round of the Europa League. It wasn't an easy performance, though, was it? What did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, going back all the way to the beginning, the lineup, I think the defense and midfield picked itself. I think the only decision was who was going to play up front, whether it would be Richie, even though he's just come back from injury, whether it be Son playing in his not favorite position, whether he'd give Lancashire a run out. Um, And I mean, you can't fault Ange. I mean, he went big. He risked it all. Played all the big boys. And again, if you look at it, if you look at the lineup and then you look at our bench, it just underlines once again the situation we're in because we started with two 18-year-olds, and then we had a bench of outfield players who were only teenagers. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just insane.
There was a stat, wasn't there, that the oldest outfield player on our bench was 20 years old.
Oh,
So
Lancashire 20.
the oldest player on our outfield player on our bench was 20 years old. That's what I'd heard on the commentary.
It could
Which,
be. I thought Lancashire was still 19, but no, yes, Lancashire is still 19. So who's 20?
oh, maybe it was anyway. Either way, it was like a whole bench with less than 5 games of Premier League experience between them. So there was so much limitation we could do, and I don't know about you, but I really noticed the drop off as the fatigue kicked in as we hit about 35-minute mark. You went, I can see these are a bunch of sore bodies on the pitch, just trying to get through. And the instructions were just kill the game early, just put it to bed as best you can. But let's go back to the goals, shall we, through the game. It was a good start. What did you make of the opening goal from Maddison?
Yeah, I mean, you and I have both been very critical of Madison. And, hats off to him. He's finally in a big game. We wanted our senior players to stand up. And that was a hell of a finish. I mean, you can't
Mm.
knock it. It was a very confident, strong run through and finish on goal. And it set us off really on the right front. Because I think if it had gone a bit further into the game, they might have got a little bit more confident, got their tails up. Whereas this, because apparently they're missing quite a few outfield players as well. So this kind of already set them back. So I think, fantastic and hats off to Madison and praise where praise is due.
Yeah, and Maddison needed a performance, right? I think we've all been quite critical that some people have started nicknaming him James 33% Maddison, as in he's only there 33% of the time. So that was an overdue game. He had had a really good performance. I'm trying to think, it was against City, I think, wasn't it, when he got his 2 goals, and then he kind of went off the boil again. And I thought today he led the way for much of the game today. He kind of stood out as a Premier League player up against that Hoffenheim side and created a lot. And the second goal as well. And yes, Gary, thanks for the comment. I am still in Las Vegas, as you can see, by the T-Mobile Arena. We don't stop here, no matter where we are. I went to the Spurs supporters Las Vegas group to watch the game, but I was the only one there. So I was officially the only Tottenham fan in Las Vegas representing the club. Today, I did turn up with my camera, hoping to get a few interviews, but there you go. And a big shout out to Kem, who's one of our new members. He's been a season ticket holder at Spurs, I believe, for 40 years. Wow. So you're a legend there, Kem. You've seen the likes of Hoddle, you've seen the likes of Klinsmann, and now you get to see you're patiently enduring a different kind of era at Spurs. But I really enjoyed your comment. Great to see your level-headed thoughts on all things Spurs there. So thanks a lot. But Stu, going back to the game, so the second goal, we had a bit of fortune there in a deflection, right? But
I mean, I think sometimes what they always say, a striker out of form needs a ball to bounce in off his butt and get off the dry streak. And that's what I think Son needed, which was reflected, I think, in his third fit goal. Well, his second goal, our third goal, which was a far more confident finish. But I thought that the pass to Son could have been a little bit better, which put him in that position anyway. But you know, you got to hit the target, which he did, and he got the lucky deflection. And you know, what can you do?
Well, it might have been going in anyway, but it hadn't been deflected. It was hard to see there. But Johnny, just good to have you on, mate. We were just discussing the overall performance, but the second goal there. Shall I bring you on to the next phase of the game then, Johnny? When you know we've seen Maddison score early, with Son's putting away a second goal, we think, oh my gosh! Someone in the comments in the WhatsApp group made a great point. They said we're riding our luck here at 2-0, and then someone said, well, we're riding nothing then. Well, that was a true statement with Spurs. We don't often get luck to ride. But then, look, things we thought, this is going to be comfortable. Let's get one more. The old cliche in football, which is let's put this game to bed, kill the game. But then they kind of got back into it, didn't they? With a goal on the 68th minute. What do you make of that? You're on mute, Johnny, I think. All right, Stu, we'll go over you, Stu. Johnny's what's out his audio. Was it just fatigue kicking in again? It felt like it was backs against the wall for a while there, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. I think, you know, the players are shattered. I think, you know, the enthusiasm of the first and the second goal got them going, but then just the legs just weren't there. Although, you know, we were saying before about Maddison, you know, I got to give him some praise as well. Was he was coming back, he was tracking back, he was doing all the work that we pointed out he doesn't normally do. And I thought also Bentancur playing the 6 was particularly impressive. He also cut out a lot of threatening actions on Hoffenheim's part, you know, coming back and intervening.
That's a good point, Ari Maddison. I know you and I in particular have been quite critical of, let's just say, he doesn't seem to assert himself physically on games enough. And you can often find him quite frustrating in that sense. You're in the final third, he'll get dispossessed and he'll be more interested in trying to make a point to the referee that he should have got a foul rather than chasing back the ball he's lost. But today I thought Maddison ran really hard. He did try to win back the balls and he seemed to be fighting hard to kind of earn a starting spot back in that squad. And for me, he was possibly the man of the match of the whole game.
I think I don't know what you think, but I thought Davis, your new soon-to-be BFF, was also absolutely fantastic as the rock at the back. Couple of intentions there, you know, real old school tackles.
And for those who don't know the story, just quickly there, my son was at a play date and for some reason Ben Davies was on the mantelpiece in this child's house and ends up he's friends with Ben Davies' nephew. So I'm doing my best to force this relationship to make them best buddies so that I can play on a bouncy castle with Ben Davies. But I think it's just destined that I'm going to result in, you know, a pulled hamstring on Ben Davies as I muck around with him. But it's coming. Live interview from a bouncy castle at 4-year-old's birthday with Ben Davies. Watch this space, guys.
I can imagine it being even worse. You bouncing up and down, landing on his ankle, and putting him out for 6 weeks.
Yeah. The worst thing is this. Yeah, true. That's exactly what's going to happen. By the way, I'm going to do his ACL or something. The worst thing is the child who's Ben Davies' nephew's got on his walls kits galore, signed shirts, you know, from all our star players. Champions League final team have all signed a ball for him, all that stuff. He supports Man United. So absolutely outrageous. So I was tempted just to steal them, but you know, stealing things from a child isn't quite fair. But I'll let my son do that work. Hypernoise, thank you so much, Stu, for the donation there, mate. Keeping the show going. Yeah, really appreciate that, man. But yeah, one criticism for Ange as we go through this game, we're talking about fatigue now in certain positions, was not starting Mikey Moore. I know the famous, you know, invert the wing guy on Twitter kind of lost his mind over that decision. And Moore was promising again when he came on, wasn't he? Do you think he's doing enough to maybe earn a start on the weekend coming up based on that performance? And what did you make of it when he came on?
First, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, Johnny. All good. Over to you.
Hallelujah. Oh my word. I'm getting nervous because I don't know if the news has hit Vegas, but Ireland is basically shut. There's a red warning, red storm warning, and everything's closed tomorrow. So I've been nailing down everything outside. It's supposed to be one of the worst in history. So yeah, we're waiting for that to hit. So there were parts of the game I missed, but certainly what I saw of Mikey Moore was, you know, just once again, I think he got an assist, didn't he? Was it the third goal?
Yeah.
And yeah, so He just my impression of I did see most of the game tonight, but you just see him, like the likes of obviously himself. He's not played as much as Bergwall and Gray, but these young boys. I know we keep saying it, but like Moore's making a very strong stake, especially with the because when he's come on, it's like at the weekend when he came on as well. He was way more effective and did more than we love Son and we hate what happened to Son at the end of the game. And delighted to see him scoring a couple of goals tonight. But Moore has probably actually made more of a meaningful contribution in when he came on for that cameo at the weekend than Sonny did in the whole 70 minutes or whatever before that, I would say. So why not? I mean, we've got some huge games coming up. I know it's not immediately prior to the Liverpool game. It's the biggest game of all, really, on the horizon. I know it's a little bit off yet. But why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we bring on Mikey Moore and give Sonny a rest? And I mean, I suppose the fear now is like up front. I mean, we've got weird. I mean, that bench today was nuts, wasn't it? I mean, and it's actually quite nice in a way. Although when it's 3-2 and it's injury time, and you're seeing these guys that you've sort of seen their names on the bench, but you haven't seen them play yet. Like, it's quite terrifying at that point. But at least I'm glad for them. They actually got on the pitch. That was a good thing for them to kind of cross that line. But yeah, I think that Mikey Moore was really, really super, and we need those minutes to give the rest of the other players, and same with probably Lancashire as well. Even I mean, at the weekend, let's see what situation we're in with Leicester. But I mean, it is so horrendous up front, and with Richie, being out for so long and only just coming back. It's absolutely crazy to even contemplate Richarlison playing kind of 90 minutes. I mean, especially when he's played so much tonight.
Yeah.
So, it is, and we keep talking about this, but Bergwall is just like, now looks like an experienced player tonight when you're watching the way he's stroking the ball around.
Yeah.
And Archie Gray, do you see Archie Gray collapsing at the final whistle as well?
Yeah.
Like, just,
God.
I mean, what is that boy giving us? He's just giving
what a signing.
Everything. It's mental.
Future captain, Johnny. I keep saying he's future
I
captain of
think you're
Spurs
right.
and England.
And England, yeah, why not?
Yeah. And if you're new to the show, by the way, just a quick introduction to us. So Stu, lifelong Spurs fan, spent a time in the UK, supporting Spurs, met a lovely Italian lady, moved over there with her. Now he's in Dubai, but still relentlessly supporting Tottenham. Johnny, bottom of your screen, a season ticket holder who flies over every single week from Dublin. And I'm Jim. We started the show as all of us, but there's two others you'll meet, Deej and Sai as well. But our whole mantra is basically you're not going to find five blokes wetting the bed every time something goes wrong. We love the club. We support the club through thick and thin. We don't want it to be about digging out players and making, toxic debates about ownership. We can keep all that stuff to Twitter or whatever else you want to argue with people on. This is a place where we try and enjoy Tottenham and provide constructive criticism, not frothy criticism about the club when it does come up in deserved occasion. But this is a win, so we're going to focus on all the positives of that today. But yeah, guys, I know Son didn't have the best game, but it was a vintage Son goal to kind of put the game to bed, wasn't it? Was a nice one and great. Maybe so. A lot of people said it's confidence of Son, and hopefully, let's hope, because he's just not. I know he's lost a drop of pace, but there's still positions he gets in. You think, old Sonny just whacks that in with a beautiful first-time hit into the top corner, and they're just ballooning all over the place at the moment.
The Everton game, the old Son would have buried that chance at 1-0 down without, with his eyes closed.
Yeah,
it's going back to what I said before. He needed that lucky deflection for the first goal to get the confidence, and hopefully that second goal shows that it's coming back a bit.
Yeah,
because if we get his finishing back,
game changer.
So
we are in a chance for silverware.
Yeah.
I'm just a bit on cloud nine in a way with the fact we're through to all these positions in the cups, despite everything that's going on, and it just feels like more like a cup team. I don't know how you I know that's not very deep analysis, but it just feels like the Spurs that did go on to get a trophy or two, and they weren't challenging for the top four at the time, but and I think we as a club, we're at a point where that's kind of worth more to us. As long as it's different to Man United. And I know people use the comparison of like, oh, well, Ten Hag won a cup. but they finished wherever and they just went backwards. But I don't feel like we're going backwards. We discussed it before. I feel like we've Ten Hag signed a foundation of players you can't build upon. Eriksen, Casemiro, Anthony, the list goes on. Just players past their prime on a fortune, or they're just useless. Whereas I feel we've bought, Barry Val, Gray, Van der Ven, the list goes on, all these brilliant young players that are a foundation we can grow on and build on. We just need to layer in a few senior additions to help us get there. So the future feels bright in the cups for me.
But it feels bright. We've got a lot to look forward to, and I know that things can change really quickly. Within a few weeks in terms of what we're talking about, what we're hopeful for. But like you just said, Jim, it's not, and I know that you would agree that it's not like we see as perennial kind of like, oh well, let's see how we get on, and we might get to Wembley kind of thing, because the whole foundations you're talking about in terms of the improving, the ever evolving and improving youth that we have. And the experience that they're gaining at the moment, and the maturity that they're showing as well. And you can see it like week by week, almost, this evolution. And it sometimes reminds me of my day job as a teacher. Like, there are sometimes really tangible signs when you actually see something happen in front of you that is a thing that just wouldn't have happened, a few weeks before or a few months before. And you see that happening with particularly Bergvall and Lucas, who are absolutely ridiculous. But I think, like, you hope now with Mikey Moore. I mean, you sort of forget he was out for those 2-3 months, and he's only back basically a week and a half. So, and we're sort of talking about him, the faith that so I know we're kind of thrust into this position through kind of ill fortune or whatever, like just through the lack of numbers. But there is at the same time like a sense that, well, like, thank God the guys that we are depending on are actually stepping up to the plate and more than matching the expectations that you could possibly have. So I think that and you do hear the analysis, and you do hear comments from, I would say, objective and rational people who aren't Tottenham fans, looking at Spurs and seeing there is a huge potential. And there's a lot of people, the noise around Ange isn't all negative. There's a lot of people who do respect, do appreciate and understand what he's trying to do, and have seen what we can do when we got everybody around. And we're going to have that with this youth that's continuing to grow continuously, very, very quickly. So yeah, it's hopefully cups this season. I'm not that bothered with the league because I don't think we're going to get sucked down into the mire, which I shouldn't have just said. But I do think, why not? Like, if we can get a couple of players back for that game in Anfield, there's everything to be hopeful for. He says nervously.
Well,
I think the thing that gives me confidence is that, in the past, even when we were doing well in the league, I never felt confident going into matches against big sides. Whereas, strangely enough, that's the one thing I'm not worried about under Ange, because all the big games, we've beaten Liverpool, we've beaten Villa, we've beaten City, we've beaten United. We are able, and we know, and the team knows that they're able to beat them. So, and that's with half the squad out. So
home and away.
Home and away. So you can imagine with the players coming back, it's going to give those that have survived even more confidence. Yes, now we're really going to do it.
Yeah, honestly, this whole court period of injury stuff has brought those players on in their development ahead of schedule. And when the senior players come back, it's great, because you're going to have players who are seen as fringe players challenging those starters who were capable at the start for a spot. Exactly. And that's what you want in a squad. You want competition across the whole pitch. So we said before, because we're going to quickly do some player ratings in a second, then wrap up. We've said before, it's like the club's got to stick with Ange until this tough period is over. It's not far away. It's February the 15th when you get a week fixture break. Most of our players are due back by then. And then you pick up and go again, and you go, fine, look, if you get to mid-March and you've got all the players back and performances aren't ticking up, tight everyone back and all that kind of stuff, fine. You evaluate the manager's future. But right now, we should all be in unison saying, poor Ange, he's a victim here, not getting backing in this. Well, the club do back
Totally.
Ange, but they haven't aggressively enough in the transfer window, in my opinion, and quickly enough brought in a couple of outfield players, which he desperately needs. And he's the victim to that. We shouldn't be pointing the finger at Ange saying that's his fault. He is the victim to that situation. And he's been very diplomatic about it because he knows if he pushes against the board, you know what happens when you push against your boss in any realm of life. You call out your CEO, you lose your job. And he wants to be here. He enjoys some reason he enjoys the pain by the looks of things. But quick player ratings, guys. We're just going to whiz through these in the next kind of 5-10 minutes. But Brandon Austin in goal, where would you put him?
Which goal was it? Was their first goal the position? Was that the one that came for the cross, or was that the second one, the header?
That was the second one where
that wasn't great, was it? The positioning on that.
I don't know if the position maybe could have done better, but I think it was one of those teasing crosses to the back post, which isn't easy to get for. I think it was more on Porro for basically leaving that bloke wide open.
Okay. His distribution was like not bad though, was it? I mean, he got the ball away quite early, and he was mixing up a bit as well. And some of his throwing was really quite impressive.
Yeah. He made a really good save as well in the first half.
He did. That save in the first half was amazing.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Should we say a good set? I think you've got to take context of who he is.
Yeah.
If we're comparing him to Vicario in that position, you'd say probably a 6. But I think given the circumstance, you're probably saying a 7. Brandon Austin,
and especially with the really harsh penalty which was given against him, which was
he did well on that.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
Yeah, and by the way, can I just on Simon's point here about teenagers? I'm getting tired of the narrative that Ange doesn't play young players. The Spence thing, I agree, Stu. You've got strong opinions on that. You were right. He did make an error not playing Spence earlier, but there's this narrative he doesn't play young players.
He doesn't. He's being forced to.
I think he. Well, he's
the one youngster that he's played that comes through the youth is Mikey Moore. None of the others.
Okay, if you're talking about our academy players, but he also sanctioned the signings of Berryvale and Gray and said they're going to make an immediate contribution. So to me, he does play youth. He doesn't play our academy as much, and they're two maybe slightly different tracks. But anyway, going off tangent because I've only got 9 minutes. Pedro Porro set up the first goal for Madison. It was him, wasn't it?
Yeah, great pass.
Rank his game. He's running on fumes, that guy, but he worked his ass off, didn't he?
I'd give him a 6.
Oh, I'm going to give him a 6.5, I think, to a 7 because he works so hard. He's burnt out. What about you, Johnny?
Yeah, I'm going to go with you, Jim. I think a little bit. There's a bigger picture, isn't it? He's been asked to do so much.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if you guys saw the article on Football London. He's played more minutes than anybody else in the squad.
Anyone else in the Premier League, I think, as well. Yeah. It's crazy. But Dragusin, guys, we know he's playing with an injury as well, right? He's been playing with an injury for the last 4 games or something. And in defence of Drag, we said before, we've never really seen him with a proper defensive partner. He's always played with the second or third choice person on his other side. But what do you say about his performance? How'd you rate it out of 10?
See, I'm worried that I missed something significant because there were times when I was distracted by other things going on. So, I mean, did he make any howlers today? How was he? I mean, his function is defensive ultimately, isn't it? So he's been getting a lot of pelters.
I think he's just become a scapegoat type figure.
Yeah, exactly. There has to be somebody, doesn't there? There always has to be somebody.
Yeah, I'd say he was a solid 6. It was fine.
I'd give him a 6.
Beloved Ben Davies, Mr. Tottenham.
Yeah, love him.
Solid. Can we give him an 8? Because I'm sick of people saying he's always a 7 out of 10. I think he's often more.
I give him an 8 just for the fact he's come straight back in. And probably not match fit. And he's marshalling the defense. He's putting his body on the line.
Yeah. And Archie played me anywhere at left wing back.
Wow,
just a phenomenal player, but again, he just looks like a natural in every position. Yeah. He's the kid at school that could give him a cricket bat, give him a football, give him a tennis racket, and you're like, you must play this all the time. Like, no, never done it before. You're like, such a
He
natural.
just looks like he just looks like he loves football, but
Yeah.
he's also kind of really mature. He just gives out this aura, doesn't he, of like being just not ruffled by anything. It's you know, when a player gets a dig in the ribs, he's the absolute opposite of Matters. He's just like he's just gonna get straight back up and dust himself down and not feel sorry for himself. You know,
an 8 out of 10 given the context then for him.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, fair enough.
Didn't
they also say he was like a cross country like county champion as well? I mean,
I bet he was.
It's just ridiculous. I saying, can you imagine being a classmate of his at 18 years old?
I bet he got 3 A stars as well.
Yeah, class grades. Turns up in a Lamborghini and you're there and you're, fifth hand full Fiesta that you've saved up for with a barge.
Oh, yeah.
Right, midfield. Looks like Jim's
Lucas, Berival. Yeah, Berival. Well, how would you?
We didn't seem to do anything wrong to me. Just seems to hold the ball so well now, and his awareness of what's happening around him. I liked it whenever we went 3-1 up. He really, for me, at that point, I was really enjoying just the kind of broad shoulders and the confidence that he had, the sort of swagger that he had. He looks totally at home. I just love. It's amazing.
It's a swagger for me.
Totally.
He's not the same kind of player, but don't you think he's got a little bit of the huddle swagger when he's on the ball?
Yeah. It's like he doesn't need to look at the ball ever. He just knows where that bloody ball is. It's amazing.
And talk about young kid who you'd hate to be in a class with. Him again. He's another who just the blonde hair, pick up any instrument, smashes exams. He's just okay. I think a solid 7.5 for Lucas. I mean, probably an 8. I think we're being hard. There are some good performances today, despite it being a ropey game at the end. I think Madders, guys, he deserves a good 7, doesn't he? He was worked really hard today and had an assist, and can't really fault him either. But I expect that level of him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, as we were saying earlier before Johnny came on, considering how much we've criticized him and slagged him off, he stepped up today and did all the things we've complained he hasn't done.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Sorry to whiz through so fast.
But
a few minutes, but Bentancur,
I thought he had a great game.
Yeah, another 7.
Yeah,
because I think Maddison and Bentancur had good games, but that's the level we expect of the senior ones with that level of talent. Where we're going to be slightly more generous to Archie and Lucas because they're kids who are just doing phenomenal and they get a little bit more rope. Sonny, it was a mixed game for him. He delivered on the output in the end, but I think he just at a point where he needs to be playing once a week. I just don't think his legs have got the gas in them anymore, in the tank to keep going. So we're saying a 6.5 for him.
He scored 2 goals. You can't give him a 6.5.
7.5. Okay, he gets an 8 because he scored 2 goals, but I think it was a Brennan Johnson 8 out of 10 in the sense that the output was there.
Yeah, fair enough, but still 2 goals.
And look, it's no discredit to Sonny. Love him, hero for what he's done for Spurs. But
and particularly when you would imagine, I know he's a seasoned pro and he's got so many so many difficult things that every player will have by the time they get to his stage in the career. But that would have really hurt him at the weekend, and to come back in the next game and do that, especially the second goal was really class. That was vintage Sonny.
It was
superb finish. So let's hope he can kick on from that.
Kulusevski running on Kulusevski running on empty, I think, is the kind of.
I thought it funny with it. There's a really good through ball for him, and he just did not have the legs. Rolled straight past him.
And lastly, Richie, and we will do a quick shout out to Mikey Moore as well, and give him probably a solid 7 for coming on and doing what he did. But Richie was the last starter. Just to quickly, he come back from injury. Great to see him get through a game. Worked hard. Was okay. 6.
I think Richie, whatever you say about him, he gives his all.
Yeah, he does.
He does give his all.
Yeah. Right, guys, I need to wrap up because I'm in Vegas and I've got my lunch break ends in 10 minutes. I've got to go back to the conference. So, but up the Spurs. And if you enjoy the content, by the way, make sure you subscribe. We do various shows. We have a weekly, more generic podcast. We do special episodes. So the next topic coming up, the special episode, is going to be around how big are Tottenham Hotspur as a club. So we're going to go over all the finances, the brand value of the club, the size of our following, how we got to where we are, where we rank in the world ecosystem versus our expectations of fans. We're going to keep it all very factual based and be joined by Ben White, who sits, I can't say what he does in the real world, but he works within finance and kind of auditing companies. So he has a good view of how things are run to help us go over those numbers. And we've got potential interviews with Vuskovic and Divine coming up through another friend of the show in Elias, who covers as a journalist the club they're on loan at. So they've agreed to an interview for us as well. So we'll be doing that. So yeah, make sure you do, and then we'll continue with the match reaction shows, which are live. Much love to you all. Thank you if you're new to the show.
And cheers for the comments. Some great comments and some really positive comments. So really appreciate the positive feedback from everyone as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And thanks. Sorry, we just didn't have time to get beyond. We only had time for our members' questions today. We do try get more questions in, but just as I was in a rush today, we couldn't. But normally we would sit on for a good hour and go through your questions in more detail. But up the Spurs, guys.
Come on,
roll on. Let's to the Sunday.
Bring them on. Bring on those Foxes.